I'm Jordan Poole from the University of Michigan Basketball. You are watching TR Sports. Please enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to TR Sports. I'm your host, Toby, and we have a lot to do. We're going to break down where Kyrie Irving is going to go this offseason. We're also going to reflect on the Sixers so far, and we're also going to look at some possible conference finals matchups and previews. Look at our first NFL prospect, Juedy, for next year's draft. And we also have our team focus at the end, where I talk about Paul Goldschmidt and how he is like my iPhone 6. So, welcome back to TR Sports. Before we get into the first story of the day, I want to talk about some soccer and some sneaker culture. So let's start off with sneaker culture. Probably not too many of you are into it, but the Travis Scott Jordan 1s are coming out Saturday, which is the day before this podcast comes out. So that's a really hyped up sneaker release, and if you guys are trying to get it, I wish you luck. I'm going to try to go to a store near me and get it for retail. So that should be fun. And then Ajax loses to the Spurs, and then Liverpool takes down Barcelona they did not have Mohamed Salah, who is their best player. And I want to talk more about soccer as this podcast continues, because I really love soccer. I loved playing soccer, and I'm trying to watch the sport more so I can get to the level where I can give the analysis and talk that I want to about it on this podcast. So I'm trying to learn more about that. So the Champions League final should be Liverpool versus the Spurs. I got the Spurs winning that. They're going to go all the way in the Champions League this year, in my opinion. Okay, so now that we got the little stuff out of the way, soccer and the sneaker drops, which I just wanted to talk about for a little, let's get into our first story. Kyrie Irving. Let's talk about him. Interesting character. Not my favorite character in the NBA. I don't love the way he addresses the media. I don't love the way he treats fans. I don't love the way he plays basketball. He's certainly a talented player that I would take on my team, however. And he's got a choice to make. The Celtics this year came in with sky-high expectations. They fell way short of that. They just lost in 5 games to the Milwaukee Bucks, and no one expected that. I expected a 7-game series. Instead, they lose in 5. I had the Celtics winning in 7. So even I, at the end of the season, overcalculated the Celtics' success. And that's mainly Kyrie Irving's fault. He's the leader of this team. He established this team as a contender and established the culture there. This man takes 22 shots, misses a ridiculous amount of them. Goes in the press conference and said, I should have taken 30. He says, I should have taken 30. Yes, you're a good player. Yes, you don't like people talking about your flaws. But you just don't do that as the leader of the team. And an anonymous Celtics player said that Kyrie Irving's not fun to play with. It's all about him. Not about the team. Listen to Bo Schembechler, former Michigan football coach. The team. And Kyrie Irving is the me. I don't like Kyrie. I don't hate him, but he's not my favorite. Now, where is he going to go? And this is what I think is going to happen if I had to put it in percentages. So, a really intriguing idea to me is Kyrie Irving to the Los Angeles Lakers. That playing with LeBron again would seem like destiny. It would seem like something out of a movie. This man leaves to try to lead his own team, fails, goes back to the man that helped him be a star from the beginning. He works with him. They go back to the NBA Finals, which probably wouldn't happen with the Golden State Warriors in front of them, but it's certainly an interesting idea. My opinion on this, so there's about a 20% chance that Kyrie Irving goes to the Lakers. At the beginning of the year, I would have said 0% chance of Kyrie going to the Lakers. Another chance is the New York Knicks. I don't buy it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're too dysfunctional. I don't think they're going to get Kevin Durant. I don't think they're going to get Kyrie Irving. So I don't think that one's going to happen. I give that maybe a 5% chance. So now we're at 25. And you may be asking, what is the big? There has to be one big high percentage move. And here it is. 40% chance that Kyrie Irving gets a sign-and trade with the Boston Celtics. A sign and trade. I think what's going to happen is he's going to get signed, and then he's going to get traded to the Pelicans or Lakers in a blockbuster move. That's going to include a guy like Jaylen Brown, maybe Jason Tatum, and Kyrie Irving for a guy like Anthony Davis, or all the Lakers' young assets. So that's certainly an interesting one. Now we're at 65. I'm going to give 30% more to other team options, and I'm not going to go over every team option. 30%. I'm going to take that out. 20% of going to other teams. Then, I'm going to give, so now we're at 85. We're going to give 10% chance of him staying with the Celtics. I definitely think it's possible. He said it at the beginning of the year, but of course, the season did not go how he wanted it to go. So, we have 5 percentage points left. We have only 5. This goes to the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think they're going to get a guy like him. I think they're going to get some decent free agents. Maybe a guy like Nikola Vucevic. Maybe a guy like Tobias Harris if he doesn't re-sign with the Sixers, which I think he will. But they can get a guy like that. I don't think they're going to land Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant. So it was really a disappointing season for Celtics fans. Not what they wanted to do, and they have to think. Jason Tatum did not play how they wanted him to play. Kyrie Irving did not play like they wanted him to play. Jaylen Brown played about his role. Al Horford's going to go on the down. So you got to come up with a plan. And that plan, I think, is going to have to be getting Anthony Davis. And I think Anthony Davis is most likely going to go to the Celtics. He's not going to stay on the Pelicans. And I think the Pelicans' price will go down. Kyrie Irving, not my favorite NBA player, as I said. But certainly would bring a lot of talent to your team, and I would certainly take him on my team as a pickup. So, when we come back to TR Sports, we are going to be talking about the Sixers' reflection and what to expect Sunday night from the Sixers against the Raptors in Game 7. And if they win, they're going to go on to face the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. So we'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back after that quick break. Before we get into our next story about the Philadelphia 76ers and what they should do in Game 7, I want to say, so I went out to go get those Travis Scott Jordan 1s today, and I tried so hard, guys. I'm telling you, I tried so hard. Took the fattest L. Did not get them, but that's okay because everybody struck out. The app crashed. It was a mess. It was a battle to get those shoes. But we are back in the podcast room today. We're going to be talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. So, this team has pushed this series to a Game 7. People said they would be out in 5. Stephen A. Smith said they could have gotten swept in 4. And now they're in Game 7. And oh my, this has been a series, and I don't understand why the Sixers come out, lose by 31, and then go win by 10. Okay, I don't get it. There's something about this team that just doesn't always give me the vibe of trying, and I feel like that's a lot of Ben Simmons, and the bench doesn't always play exactly how we want them to, as a Sixers fan, which is we. So, who do I think is going to win the game? Who do I think is going to win the series? I think 2 episodes again, in episode 2 of the podcast, I gave my prediction for the Sixers-Raptors series, and now we have the results, of course, and that result is I still believe the Sixers are going to win in 7. I said they were going to win in 7 or 6. I think they're going to do it again. I'm not going to change it because I made my prediction. I'm going to stick with it. But for the Sixers to win this game, what has to happen is the Raptors bench has to not play well. The Sixers can't come out and play like they did yesterday if the Raptors bench is hitting shots. Serge Ibaka has to keep missing, and Danny Green just has to play badly for the Sixers to have a chance. I think Jimmy Butler's going to have a monster game. Joel Embiid's sick, so I really am not going to give a prediction on a player who might not be healthy. But Kawhi Leonard will definitely fight for his team, even though he's probably going to leave the team in the next year after this season. So I think the Sixers are going to win in 7. They're not going to have to face the Celtics if they win. They're going to go and face the Bucks, which should be a hell of a matchup. It really does bring back memories of the 2001 NBA Finals. When the Sixers started, played the Raptors, beat them in 7, played the Bucks, beat them in 7, went to the NBA Finals against the Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal led Lakers. Okay, that's the Sixers. We'll see how they do Sunday night, which will be, again, the night this podcast comes out. We're going to find out who wins that series. So, on to the conference final previews. Of course, the podcast comes right before we have the conference finals set. But we do have our first 2 teams. So, in the East, as I said, the Bucks beat the Celtics to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Warriors, just last night, beat the Rockets to get to the Western Conference Finals. As I said the Warriors were going to win in 5 against the Rockets. The Rockets stretched it out to 6. Even with Kevin Durant out, everyone was like, this is the Rockets' chance. But you guys are forgetting this Warriors team won 73 games without Kevin Durant. And Curry had a cold first half, came out hot second half, win the game, win the series, as I said. And they're going to go to the conference finals. And then we have this Nuggets Trailblazers series, which is now again going to a game 7. And I have the Trailblazers beating the Nuggets. It's really a 50-50, but I'm going to stick with the Trailblazers on that one. So, Trailblazers, Warriors, Bucks beat the Celtics, as I said, like 5 times. So the Bucks are going to either play Toronto or the Sixers, whoever wins that game 7 on Sunday. And I think definitely the more interesting series will be the Sixers and Bucks. I feel like that's going to go the whole mile, 7 games. And I also feel like the Toronto series would go 6 games. I'll give that if Toronto comes to play the Bucks. But the Warriors, Trailblazers, I mean, Damian Lillard's had a hell of a playoffs. Hit that crazy shot. CJ McCollum has had some great games behind Damian Lillard. But that team, a couple years ago, they were the 8th seed. Pretty much an identical roster. This time without Yusuf Nurkic. I think they lost in 4 or 5 in that series, so I don't see the Trailblazers having any chance here, especially after the performance they've given in some of the Nuggets games. I think Charles Barkley's wrong on his prediction of the Trailblazers going to the conference finals. I don't think that's going to happen. But, you know, as the NBA season winds down, there's going to be less and less to talk about. But the NBA Finals is coming up in June, and it's May now. So a lot of exciting stuff to move forward in the NBA, and I feel the finals should be awesome this year. And I say the Warriors, and we don't know who the other team is in the East. I'll make my decision when that game's played Sunday night with the Sixers and Raptors. So it should be a really fun way to end the season. Of course, LeBron's first year of missing the playoffs, which is first since a long time ago, like somewhere in the 2003 to 5 range since then. But yeah, it's been a hell of an NBA season. I'm excited to see these conference finals matchups, and I feel like it'll be a great end to the season. So when we come back, we will look at our first NFL prospect. As I said, Jerry Judy, the receiver from Alabama. We'll talk about him for a little, not too long. And then finally, we have our team focus, and we're going to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals. So we'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back to TR Sports. Let's get into the NFL. We haven't talked about the NFL for a while now. Last time we talked about it was episode 2 of the podcast, of course, when the draft happened. And I know I labeled this segment Juedy. I'm going to talk about him and some of his abilities. But of course, there's not that much to look at, and I'm not going to do a full film analysis yet until we get closer to the draft, which is a year away. But it's always fun to start early at this kind of thing. And, of course, when there's no NFL news happening, you have to talk about it a little. So we're going to bring up the draft. So we're going to talk about Juedy, one of my favorite players in the draft, maybe my favorite player in the draft. And then we're going to talk about future mock draft in general and what I think of some of the players. We're not going to go through all of it because there's just not that much to talk about when a player you haven't seen that much of in a senior season. So let's talk about Juedy. People say all the time, do not draft a receiver in the first round. And I generally agree with that. I was not a huge guy on DK Metcalf. I thought he should have gone higher than the third round. He was the second round. I think he was the end of the second round he got drafted. Something like that. I think he should have gone higher than that because of his athletic ability, but I don't think he was necessarily a top 10 pick. But this guy has some serious skill. So DK Metcalf, he's strong, cannot run routes. Juedy is relatively strong, okay? He's not absolutely huge, but he's got some nice strength, and he's very athletic. He ran a 4.50, a 40-yard time, which is not super fast for a receiver, but it's pretty good. It's pretty fast. And he can run routes. He is a less strong, route-running, faster DK Metcalf. Maybe faster. We don't quite know yet until we see that 40-yard time, not from his senior high school season, as the 4.50 was when he was a senior in high school. But I feel like he'll run around I'm not sure. I'm not going to guess that, actually, for the combine, what his 40 is going to be. He played for Alabama. Came out of Florida like his Crimson Tide teammates Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. And he's a lot like Julio Jones. And he's a very talented receiver. He had 59 catches his last year at Alabama, and he got 1,103 yards with an 18.7 yard average and 12 touchdowns. That is some nice stats, dude, I'm telling you. Of course it helps that you have Tua Tagovailoa throwing you the ball, but don't tell me an 18.7 yard average on 59 catches with 12 touchdowns is bad at all. Of course you can't just read college football stats and say they're going to be a good NFL player. Which we can't. There's not enough for me. I don't know enough about him to make a final NFL talent analysis. But I'm just trying to introduce you guys to the prospect. I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to give you the numbers, and I'm going to give you what he's known for. And then we'll keep building on that as we get closer to the draft. Again, he's known for his juke moves. There's a lot of talent compilations of Juedy doing some crazy route-running juke moves and then running away with the ball. And Calvin Ridley said he was a great player. He works very hard and deserves everything coming his way. That's a quote from Calvin Ridley. So Juedy is one of my favorite players. I definitely think he's going to be a first-rounder, especially with a great player like Tua Tagovailoa throwing him the ball. And, of course, he's not against too hard of a competition at Alabama because they play some garbage teams. No offense if you're one of those terrible teams who's not in the SEC. So, I'm looking at this mock draft from CBS. We're not going to talk about everybody here because I really don't know everybody, but I'll talk about the quarterbacks, and I'll talk about another player if it catches my eye that I know here, which I don't really know a lot of these players, so I'm going to have to learn as we get closer to the draft. So, of course, number 1 is Tua Tagovailoa. What do I think of this pick? I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's anything exceptional. I think the hype was too high on him last year. I feel like Kyler Murray will be a better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa in the NFL. Um, he's the favorite to be in the number one pick. And would I draft him at this spot over a guy like Justin Herbert? Yeah, he's more proven. He's on a winning team. He showed up in a big moment 2 years ago. Definitely not this year in the championship. He did not show up for that, but he did. He's a great quarterback, and he's got a lot of potential, and he's the surefire pick. He's a safe kind of Matt Stafford pick to me. Andrew Luck, Matt Stafford kind of pick. Well, not Andrew Luck, because I feel like Andrew Luck was a little more hyped up. I feel like Andrew Luck is more like a Trevor Lawrence right now than Tua Tagovailoa. I feel like Tua Tagovailoa is kind of like a Matt Stafford pick. Of course, number 2, they have Arizona, who's not going to take a quarterback because they just drafted Kyler Murray after drafting Josh Rosen. Then they have Jerry Judy, who's a great player, and he's, again, explosive downfield after the catch, and he's pretty tall. So they have Justin Herbert falling to pick 5. Again, I can't disagree with that because we don't exactly know what teams are going to be in certain places, but they have him going to the Bengals. He's an athletic, big guy that's got a nice arm, and he's kind of like a Mariota, Andrew Luck type guy. We'll see how good he can be in the NFL. I'm not sure. So I just wanted to talk about the NFL for a little bit in today's podcast. So that was our little NFL segment. And when we come back, we're going to break down the St. Louis, I almost said Arizona Cardinals. We're going to break down the St. Louis Cardinals and, again, how Paul Goldschmidt is like my iPhone 6. We'll be right back. Focus, and today we're going to be doing the St. Louis Cardinals. We're going to be looking at the roster and breaking them down. But before I do that, I want to use a little analogy about Paul Goldschmidt. So if you guys didn't know, the Samsung Galaxy Fold came out a couple weeks ago, and on paper, it looked like an innovation. The Fold folds. It's a new slick design by Samsung. And it looks incredible. But reviewers get this phone, and their phones start breaking. The screen is cracking, the screen is turning off randomly, and it was a mess. The launch was a mess. Some even exploded. So Samsung scrambled to get these phones in the right situation. And as people kept on using these phones, they were breaking, right? But also other flaws became more evident. The price, everything. But let's say I had an iPhone 6. iPhone 6 was so reliable every year. I never really thought about how good my iPhone 6 really was. That's until I tried to make a switch. I saw the new sparkly Samsung Galaxy Fold and I thought to myself, I want that phone. But the phone is so expensive, and it's just not that effective. This phone, the Samsung Galaxy Fold, is Bryce Harper, and your iPhone 6 is Paul Goldschmidt. Reliable iPhone 6, never really looked at in depth, but putting up great numbers. And then you have your Samsung Galaxy Fold, getting plenty of attention, not performing well, and overpriced. My point is, the St. Louis Cardinals know how to build a team. They can recognize the Bryce Harper, the shiny new Samsung Galaxy Fold that's going to break and is overpriced. And they can find a great deal for your iPhone 6, which is Paul Goldschmidt, who they traded for. They know how to run a team. This is an efficient organization. And during this team focus, we're going to go over the roster and what makes them so successful. Paul Goldschmidt is a heck of a player. And he's your old, reliable iPhone 6. Not too expensive, works well. And at times, works better than your clunky Samsung Galaxy Fold, which is breaking. So, let's talk about the St. Louis Cardinals as a team. And they've had quite an interesting season because they were killing it. You know, they sweep the Cubs at the beginning of the season, and they're rolling to begin, and then they go back to face the Cubs, and they get swept by the Cubs. And ever since then, they have not been the same team. They go to Philadelphia, and they lose the series against Philadelphia, which I certainly was not expecting. It was at Busch Stadium, and they really did fail. And in their last 10 games, they have not been very good. They have been 3-7. And last podcast, they were number 1 in the division with 19 wins, and now they have 22 wins, and they're third in the division with a worse record through the last 10 games than the Pirates do. So it's bad. They have about the same record as the Reds do in the past 10 games. Same level of team success, counting wins and losses. So what's wrong? What is happening? I think mostly it's that some of their flaws are becoming more evident. And I think some of that is the pitching. They have a rough bullpen in general. Not just the relievers, but a lot of their starters they're not very good compared to some other teams. And when you look at teams like the Phillies, you have some guys that can come in and throw good games. Like Jared Eichhoff has come in and saved some of the games for them. But it's interesting. You have some good pitchers, like some guys out of the bullpen that can throw pretty fast fastballs. But some of their guys, like Dominic Leon, has a 9.18 ERA, and that's bad. They have a lot of high ERA guys, and they are ranked pretty poorly in walk rate. They're ranked 24th worst in the league, so they walk a lot of guys. And their offense is good, though. I will say Matt Carpenter, Paul DeYoung, as I said, Paul Goldschmidt, they're a solid team. And I think a lot of their flaws are going to become more evident as we continue the season. And I think, again, I still think, as I said, I'm not going to go away. They're definitely a threat for the playoffs. They're a sleeper team for the World Series. But they have to get some of these issues in order. As I said with the Phillies, bring in a guy like Craig Kimbrell. You have some money to spend. Bring him in. Bring in a guy like Dallas Keuchel. Beef up your starting rotation. That's what you have to do if you're the Cardinals, because you are good offensively. But if you're going to go 3-7 in a 10-game span, that's not quite good enough. And of course, slumps happen in baseball, and I think that's what we're seeing right now from the Cardinals. Getting swept by a division rival like the Cubs is a big blow for a team like that. So they're going to have to pick it up, get their act together, and play like a contender if they want to be a contender. They have all the pieces. Marcell Ozuna from the Marlins a couple years ago. They are building a team. They're a well-run organization. But they don't have superstar power. And they don't have a great rotation. So it's all really up to the offense, the manager. And it's going to be quite a season. I'm interested to see what they do. As again, I gave a grade to the Philadelphia Phillies last episode. So now we're going to give a grade to the St. Louis Cardinals. Overall, they have a lot of flaws, but their ceiling is so high, in my opinion, as a team, to make a run at something that it's just hard to resist looking at that nice offense. So, I'm going to give them a B+ for the time being. I gave the Phillies an A-, and now the Cardinals are going to get, in the second team focus ever, B+. They're a solid team with a solid roster and great potential. If they click, this team is scary. But if they lose their confidence like they did against the Chicago Cubs, and they don't want it that much, like they have in the last 10 games, and they go 3-7, that will be an issue. This team has two opposite identities, and I'm excited to see how they play going forward, and I think it will be a good season for you St. Louis Cardinals fans out there. and I look forward to it. So that concludes today's episode of TR Sports. I want to thank everyone for watching. The new microphone, I hope, sounds good on the podcast. And I put a lot of work into these, so I want to thank some of the guys that watch it out there. Again, we're building an audience. We're trying to get to the place we want to be with the podcast. And bringing in new segments like this really help. And I'm trying to learn more about other sports so I can talk about it on the podcast. Like we did talk about the Champions League a bit today. So that's the end of the episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and happy Mother's Day weekend. This comes out on Mother's Day. So spend time with your family, have fun, and I'm going to make this podcast for you guys. So I want to thank you so very much, and I will see you all